Hi all. In this video we will discuss why Turkey did not attack the USSR and was not invaded by Hitler or Stalin. Hitler declared himself the pillar of the Eastern nations against British and French colonialism, but in reality sought first to use the populations of these countries to fight his main adversaries and then to subjugate them. There were operational plans in Berlin to take over Turkey. The Abwehr Residency was active in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan and was getting close to India. All these actions directly threatened the domination of England and France in the east. In Turkey, Iran and Afghanistan there were many Muslim political émigrés from the former Russian Empire who were willing to cooperate with anyone, whether it was the Abwehr, the intelligence service or the NKVD. Immediately after the outbreak of World War I, the surviving countries of the Middle East declared their neutrality. Nevertheless, while Afghanistan's position was more or less secure because of its remoteness, Turkey and Iran, in particular, were at the center of political intrigue and games of the intelligence services of the warring parties. Iranian ruler Reza the Shah was sympathetic to Germany, which for the time being saved his country from occupation by the Soviets, but it could not last long. Moscow needed to cover the oil fields in Transcaucasia, so the occupation of Iran was only a matter of time. The question of Turkey became a stumbling block between Stalin and Hitler. After Germany did not agree to the cession of Bulgaria to the USSR and the establishment of Soviet bases in the Dardanelles, Moscow refused to join the Triple Pact. Hitler had his own plans for Turkey and had no intention of ceding it to Stalin. In early 1941, the German military command began to develop an operational plan for the capture of Turkey, which later received the codename Gertrude. The only areas of Eastern foreign policy on which the Third Reich and the USSR were able to come to some agreement were India and Afghanistan. Stalin allowed German intelligence services to use Soviet territory to operate in Afghanistan. With the help of the Soviet embassy in Kabul, the Germans smuggled Chandra Bose to Germany through Soviet territory in the spring of 1941. Thanks to Soviet support in 1939 to 1941, the SS was able to organize expeditions to Tibet. The SS was able to organize expeditions to Tibet, which subsequently gave rise to numerous theosophical speculations. After the German attack on the USSR, the political balance of power in the East changed radically, which instantly decided the fate of Iran. At the end of August 1941, the troops of the Transcaucasian Front entered South Azerbaijan, and from the other side of the Caspian Sea the 53rd Separate Army of the Central Asian Military District entered Iran. At the same time the south of Iran was occupied by the British forces. Reza Shah abdicated, giving the throne to his son Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. At the same time, most of the German agents in Afghanistan were neutralized. King Zahir Shah, having a clear example of Iran, provided the most active assistance in the elimination of the Afghan network of the Abwehr. Turkey was in a rather delicate position. On the one hand, Ankara asserted its neutrality and maintained close relations with Great Britain and France. On the other hand, on June 18, 1941, Turkey signed a treaty of friendship and non-aggression with Germany. The country was between two fires, threatened by the invasion of Germany and the USSR, supported by its Western allies. Nevertheless, throughout the war Ankara took no hostile action against Moscow. At the most difficult time for Stalin, when the Germans were standing at Stalingrad and fighting for the passes in the Caucasus, the Turkish army was concentrated along the Soviet border with the goal of taking control of Azerbaijan after the Soviet collapse. Turkey feared that after the fall of the USSR, Germany would take over the operational plan, Gertrude, which was on the agenda until 1944, when Soviet forces occupied Bulgaria. In the second half of 1943, under the pretext of ensuring the security of the Tehran Conference, the Soviet administration completely subjugated its occupied part of Iran. Despite the treaty signed in 1942, Stalin was not going to leave the country after the end of the war and was preparing to incorporate northern Iran into the USSR. In addition, these territories were to become a springboard for an attack on Turkey. At the same time, Moscow was actively working on the Kurdish problem. Having long-standing relations with the Kurds, after the Red Army entered Iran, the Communists in every possible way supported the independence movement in eastern Kurdistan, located in the part of the country not occupied by the Allied troops. In addition, work was carried out in British-occupied Iraq, where positions of Moscow-friendly Kurdish clan Barzani were strong, and in the Turkish West Kurdistan. After the entry of Soviet troops into Bulgaria, Ankara decided not to wait for further developments. Neutrality was becoming too dangerous, and in February 1945 Turkey declared war on Germany. Stalin immediately broke the Soviet-Turkish Non-Aggression Pact, and began negotiations for a new treaty. It was about the return of the lands ceded to Turkey under the 1921 treaty, i.e., the return of the 1878 border when Kars was Russian. These demands were supported by the leadership of the Georgian and Armenian SSR. Moreover, the Armenian leadership insisted on ceding them much larger Turkish territories up to Erzurum, while Tbilisi wanted the Black Sea coast up to Trabzon and beyond. The USSR also insisted that it be given a naval base in the Straits in order to fully control the passage to the Black Sea. At the Potsdam Conference on this question, Stalin did not receive open support from the United States and Great Britain, but there was no open resistance to his demands either. The parties adopted a streamlined formulation that the issue of the Straits should be resolved in further negotiations. In August 1946, the USSR openly demanded that Turkey reconsider the status of the Straits. But, the Cold War that began in March of that year, in which Turkey immediately sided with the West, helped it reject the note. Stalin did not risk to start a war because Turkey was guaranteed military aid by the Western Allies, and after the country joined NATO in 1952, the issue of territorial claims disappeared by itself.